1 year ago, Chloe threw a gold card right at my face and dumped me. I actually cried, begging her through my tears to stay, but she was already hooked on her shiny new boy toy. She walked away without glancing back even once. Now, exactly 1 year later, this same woman I loved for 10 whole years is on her knees in the freezing snow, desperately begging me to take her back. I just looked down at her and said, "Chloe, get up." She was sobbing so hard her entire body was physically shaking, pleading, "Ethan, I know I was completely wrong. But some mistakes are exactly like shattered glass. If you reach out to pick up the pieces, you only end up slicing your hands open. And my heart, it's already gone completely ice cold. But I seriously never expected that after catching me in the arms of another woman, she would change her tune so completely. I just stare out the window. Outside, the snow is coming down incredibly hard. The phone on my desk just keeps buzzing, over and over again. I don't even need to glance at the screen to know it's Chloe calling me. This makes it her 23rd missed call just tonight. The screen lights up, then goes totally dark again, perfectly reflecting my completely deadpan, expressionless face. There's a dark silhouette standing down in the street, absolutely motionless. I know for a fact it's her. It's been 3 solid hours already. Wow. Talk about persistent. Chloe, you've always been so brutally ruthless, even to yourself. When we broke up back then, you stood right in front of me, just like this, and said in that unbelievably calm, totally casual tone, "Ethan, let's just call it quits." Those few, careless little words completely demolished absolutely everything I had spent 10 long years building. And now you claim you regret it. Sighing, I grab my heavy coat and finally head downstairs. The freezing winter wind cuts like an absolute blade, stinging my cheeks the second I step out. And sure enough, there she is still waiting in the exact same spot, looking like a literal snowman. Her hair and her shoulders are completely caked in thick white snow. But the very second she spots me, this sudden desperate spark of light completely ignites in her eyes. It's a blinding, almost manic light. Exactly like a dying person desperately clutching onto their very last lifeline. When she finally speaks, her voice is painfully, incredibly raspy. Her freezing body sways slightly side to side, like she can barely even manage to stay on her own 2 feet. But I don't reach out to catch her. Instead, I just choose to watch her in total silence, standing a good few paces away. "Go back home," I tell her flatly. "No, I'm not leaving," she shoots back, shaking her head so violently that snow goes flying from the tips of her hair. "If you refuse to see me, I'll just keep waiting right here." "And what's the actual point of waiting out here?" I ask. "It will matter," she insists, stumbling a sloppy step forward and frantically reaching out to grab the sleeve of my coat. Her hands are completely frozen over, turning this bright, angry red that makes them look like 2 ugly carrots. I know I was wrong. "Ethan, please, just give me one more chance. Please, just this once." Scalding hot tears begin streaming down her frozen face, splashing directly onto the back of my hand. But honestly, I feel absolutely nothing. It's like I'm just a random bystander watching some cheap, tragic soap opera that has absolutely nothing to do with me. But it never used to be like this. Back in the good old days, if she so much as frowned just a little bit, my heart would instantly ache for her. Now, as she physically kneels before me, sobbing her eyes out, the only thing I feel is entirely, utterly annoyed. "Chloe." I address her firmly by her full name. She immediately looks up at me, her red eyes suddenly brimming with desperate hope. "Do you remember?" I slowly, deliberately yank my sleeve out of her frozen grip. "Exactly 1 year ago today, the horrible things you said to me? Actually, it wasn't snowing a year ago today. Instead, the sky was a perfect crystal blue." She had coldly demanded I meet her at that little corner cafe we always used to go to together. By the time I actually got there, she was already sitting at our booth. The warm sunlight was streaming through the glass window, perfectly catching the delicate profile of her face. I won't lie. Sitting there, she looked breathtakingly, heartbreakingly beautiful. Back then, I was still foolishly thinking that even after being together for well over a decade, I could genuinely never get tired of looking at her face. She just gently stirred the black coffee in her mug, never even bothering to look up at me. The atmosphere between us was suffocatingly heavy. Right then and there, my heart suddenly completely sank. "Chloe?" I asked, taking my seat across from her and calling her name softly. She finally bothered to look up, but her gaze was totally hollow and miles away. She wasn't even looking at me. Her cold eyes just drifted aimlessly around the room. "Ethan," she finally said. Her tone was absolutely, brutally flat. "Let's just end things right here." I completely froze on the spot, genuinely thinking my ears were playing a cruel trick on me. "Wait, what did you just say?" I stammered out. I said, "We're done," she coldly repeated. And this time, she looked me dead in the eye without a single, tiny shred of human warmth. "I just don't love you anymore, Ethan. There's really zero point in dragging this out." I clearly remember letting out this pathetic, foolish little nervous laugh back then. "Come on, stop joking around, Chloe. Today definitely isn't April Fool's Day. I'm not joking." She then casually slid a premium bank card right across the table over to me. "This covers all the pathetic money you spent on me over the years." I calculated the rough amount. "I'm paying you back double what you gave. The pin is just your birthday." I could only stare blankly at that stupid card. Its flashy, bright gold color was practically blinding my teary eyes. "But why?" My throat suddenly felt incredibly tight and bone dry. My voice was turning painfully raspy. "Because I'm just sick and tired of you," she sighed, lowering her gaze, letting those long eyelashes completely hide whatever she was truly feeling. "Being with you is just way too exhausting now. What you give me is never, ever what I actually want." What on earth did she even want? Damn it, I would have gladly ripped my own beating heart right out of my chest for that woman. When she whined about wanting to pursue further studies right after our graduation, I willingly tossed away my own spot for a grad school recommendation, jumping straight into the brutal workforce early just to pay her expensive tuition. And when she set her greedy eyes on that fancy little downtown apartment, I took on countless brutal part-time gigs, grinding my bones to dust for 3 straight years just to scrape together the massive down payment. And yet, only her name was ever put on that property deed. She always claimed she desperately longed for a nice, stable life. So, I even turned down a massive promotion that required relocation, choosing to stay local as a boring, regular manager just for her. But now she has the absolute nerve to claim she's tired and exhausted by me. Every single thing I sacrificed. It wasn't what she wanted. So, what the hell did she actually want? I stared right at her, desperately searching her face for any hint that this was just some sick joke. But I found absolutely nothing. Her expression was completely deadpan, stone-cold, and indifferent, like we were just making small talk about the weather. That icy composure? It hurt a million times worse than a screaming match. She was making it crystal clear that dumping me was a completely calculated move. Without a single shred of hesitation, "Is there someone else?" I heard myself ask, my voice shaking uncontrollably. She just fell silent for a few seconds, and then softly shook her head. "One answer. 61 reasons why. I just don't want to keep walking down this path with you anymore." She stood up and grabbed her bag. "Ethan, let's just end this cleanly. Don't make me look down on you." She turned on her heel and walked away. The crisp click of her stilettos echoed sharply across the floor, beat after beat, completely shattering my entire world. I sat in that cafe for what felt like an eternity, right up until a waiter awkwardly reminded me they were closing. Outside, the night had already grown pitch black. Clutching that bank card like a lifeline, I stumbled to the nearest ATM, slid it in, and punched in my birthday to check the balance. A massively long string of numbers popped up on the screen. The amount was staggering. Using this cash to buy out 10 years of my blood, sweat, and devotion? Yeah, it was more than enough. Leaning heavily against that freezing machine, I let out a bitter, hollow laugh. And as I laughed, the tears finally started falling. Downstairs, the wind grows even fiercer, swirling freezing snow right down my collar. Chloe is still kneeling in the exact same spot, looking up at me. Her face is so pale it's almost totally translucent. Her lips are frozen into a deep, sickly purple. My question just now? It was like a fine needle completely popping her fragile little facade. In a split second, the light in her eyes vanished completely. Thinking about last year's events, her lips trembled uncontrollably, and she couldn't manage a single coherent sentence for the longest time. "You were certainly decisive enough back then." I cut in, keeping the pressure on. "You said you were so sick of it. That being together was just too exhausting, and that everything I gave you wasn't what you wanted. Hell, you even told me to end things cleanly so you wouldn't look down on me." Every single word carried the exact crushing weight of that day, and now I was throwing them all right back at her, word for freaking word. Her body shook violently, and her tears started flowing even more fiercely. No, it's not like that. None of that was true. She shook her head in total desperation, reaching out once more to try and grab hold of me. Back then, I really had a painful secret I couldn't share. I repeated those words in my head, finding them utterly ridiculous. What kind of secret could possibly justify abandoning me in such a cold, heartless way? She opened her mouth, but the words just caught in her throat, leaving nothing but a stifled, pathetic, low sob. Since you can't seem to say it, let me help jog your memory. I took a step closer, glaring down at her. 3 days after the breakup, I ran all the way to your house, utterly devastated, desperately looking for you. Your mother answered the door. She said you had gone on a trip to clear your head. I wasn't on a trip. Don't be in such a rush. Let me finish. I cut her off instantly. I stayed up all damn night waiting outside your building, but I never managed to catch you. Early the next morning, I saw it with my own 2 eyes. I saw you step out of a Mercedes G-Wagon. The driver was some young guy. And you. You smiled at him. You smiled at him with a look I hadn't seen on your face in a very, very long time. She snapped her head up, her eyes bulging with sheer shock and panic. You saw everything? Yeah. I nodded slowly. I saw you wearing a brand new dress, looking absolutely beautiful. He reached out to open the car door for you, and you even leaned in and kissed him, all on your own accord. That exact scene turned into a razor-sharp thorn, buried deep inside my heart for an entire year. Every single time I think about it, my chest aches with this blinding pang of pain. It's not what you think, she screamed hysterically, reaching out to desperately clutch the hem of my pants. That man was my cousin. My mother forced me to do it. Chloe. I spoke up to cut her off, feeling nothing but a deep, profound sense of exhaustion. Even now, you're still making up cheap lies to cover your tracks. If he was really your cousin, why didn't you just say that back then? She froze completely. Her tight grip on my pants slowly loosened, and her hands fell limply right into the freezing snow. I couldn't say it. Ah, I see. Another so-called secret. The corner of my mouth twitched slightly, pulling up into a faint, bitter smirk. You certainly seem to have no shortage of tragic hardships. I bent down, fully intending to pull her up as my fingertips just brushed her arm. She was bone-chillingly cold, but she suddenly flipped her hand and grabbed my wrist in a death grip, her fingernails digging violently into my skin. Ethan, believe me, please. Just this once. Just once, she pleaded helplessly. Her eyes were filled with absolute despair, thrashing like a drowning person fighting for her life. There was absolutely nothing going on between that man and me. I only did that to deliberately hurt you. I wanted to push you away so you'd leave me on your own. I just looked down at her silently, not saying a single word. Snowflakes drifted down between the two of us, and the entire world around us fell completely. Dead. Silent. Why were you so desperate to push me away? I finally asked. It was like she froze in an instant. The words caught in her throat, her eyes darting around like a trapped animal. Her mind was clearly tearing itself apart, but in the end, her shoulders just slumped in defeat. I can't say, she whispered. It was still the exact same answer as always. With that, the very last shred of patience in my heart completely bled dry. Get up. The freezing ground is no place for you. I grabbed her arm, pulling her up from the snow. Her legs gave out, and she collapsed heavily against my chest. A touch that once would have sent my heart racing, now just felt incredibly heavy. Suffocating even. I'll take you back, I muttered. I'm not leaving, she cried out, gripping my arm with terrifying strength. She tilted her face up, her eyes brimming with tears. Ethan, can we please just start over? She begged. I'll tell you everything. I'll confess it all. Let's just go back to the way we used to be. We can't go back, I said, staring out at the hazy streetlights in the distance, my voice barely a whisper. We can, she insisted. As long as you still have love for me in your heart, we can absolutely return to the past, she pleaded with a desperate, stubborn persistence. You still have feelings for me, right? You came all the way downstairs in the snow just to see me. That means you still care. I slowly lowered my head, staring deep into her eyes. Those bright, expressive eyes that used to be my entire world when I was younger. But now, they only reflected a broken, utterly exhausted version of myself. Chloe, I said softly, it's true. I don't love you anymore. The moment those words dropped, the entire world plunged into a dead silence. All that was left was the howling roar of the wind and the freezing snow. She just stared at me blankly. Her eyes were blown wide with shock, as if her brain couldn't process the words, or she was just flat out refusing to believe them. "You're lying," she murmured. Her voice was as frail and light as a drifting feather. "I'm not," I replied, my voice completely hollow and calm. Her freezing hand was still resting against my arm, but I felt her desperate grip slowly begin to slip. I could physically feel her body go from a tiny, fragile tremble to a violent, full-body shudder. How? How could you not love me anymore? She just kept shaking her head, huge, heavy tears rolling down her pale cheeks. "We were together for 10 whole years. 10 years, Ethan. Didn't you promise you'd love me for the rest of your life?" "I did say that," I admitted frankly. "And back then, I meant every single syllable from the absolute bottom of my heart. I was ready to give up everything I had just to make her smile. I was dead convinced she was the only woman who would ever stand by my side, and that my heart didn't have room for anyone else. But that was a lifetime ago. People's hearts eventually change." "Is it because I hurt you too deeply?" she pressed urgently, clutching at the words like a drowning woman grabbing a lifeline. "You still hate me. You're just saying you don't love me to get back at me, right?" In her mind, holding a grudge meant I still gave a damn. Watching her unravel like this, a deep sense of melancholy washed over my heart. She still didn't get it. Once a glass is shattered, you can never put the pieces back together. Not every mistake leaves room for an apology. "I don't hate you," I said flatly. "Every word I'm saying is the absolute truth. Honestly, even hating you would require too much energy." Standing face to face with her now, I couldn't feel even a single, pathetic ripple of emotion. "Then why?" she sobbed. She refused to let it go, screaming into the snow for an answer. Why did it have to turn out like this? I'd asked myself that exact same question a million times. Maybe it started during those endless late nights, waking up dead drunk and totally alone in an empty house. Or maybe it was the exact moment I deleted her number and realized she was never, ever going to reach out to find me again. Maybe it was when I was deathly sick and trapped in that hospital bed, forced to sign my own surgical consent forms. That agonizing moment when the pen hit the paper, and my name was the only one on the line. Or maybe it was when I just got used to it. Eating alone, watching movies alone, blowing out candles on my birthday all by myself. Time flowed on like freezing water, slowly eroding the days and nights, washing away every ounce of bitter resentment, and quietly draining the last drops of love from my chest. By the time I finally woke up and realized it, the corner of my heart that used to belong to her was a graveyard covered in weeds. I couldn't tear them out, but no flowers would ever bloom there again. There was no big, dramatic reason. I reached out and gently adjusted her scarf against the cold. My movements were totally smooth, as if I were just fixing the coat of an old acquaintance. The truth was simple. I just didn't love her anymore. But that casual little gesture seemed to give her the wrong idea. A spark of hope ignited in her teary eyes. With a desperate, all-or-nothing surge of energy, she suddenly shot up on her tiptoes and smashed her lips against mine. Her lips were ice cold, laced with the stinging, bitter salt of her tears. My body just went rigid. I didn't kiss her back, but I didn't even care enough to push her away. It felt like I was pressing up against a cold, lifeless boulder. After a long, agonizing few seconds, I simply took a step back. She stood frozen in the snow, her face twisting from fragile hope to utter shock, and finally shattering into absolute, bottomless despair. "See?" I casually wiped the corner of my mouth with the back of my hand. "I really don't feel anything at all." In a flash, it was like someone had pulled the plug on her soul. She collapsed dead away into a heap in the frozen snow. But this time, I didn't take a single step to help her back up. Even after everything she did to me, I still ended up helping her into a cab. The driver asked for her destination, and she choked out an address. It wasn't the place we used to share. Clearly, she had moved on to somewhere new during the past year. The second the door clicked shut, her fingers desperately gripped the window ledge. Her red, swollen eyes locked onto mine, unblinking. "Ethan, is it really over between us?" I didn't give her an answer. I just looked past her and told the driver, "Sir, please drive safe on these icy roads." The cab pulled away slowly, disappearing into the dead of night. Its red taillights blurred out as the freezing wind and snow swallowed them whole. I just stood there on the curb, sparking up a cigarette. The bitter wind whipped across my face, leaving a sudden trace of moisture on my cheek. I reached up and wiped it away. It was probably just melted snow. After all, my tears for that woman had dried up a long, long time ago. I turned on my heel and headed home, leaving a heavy, uneven trail of footprints behind me. The fresh snow quickly buried my tracks, wiping the slate clean like last night's drama never even happened. Inside my apartment, the heater was blasting, washing over me in a comforting wave of warmth. My computer was still glowing in the dark. The screen showed endless lines of unfinished code, sitting right next to a half-empty mug of ice-cold coffee. My life had finally gone back to exactly how it was before she ever crashed into it. Quiet, mind-numbingly tedious, and completely, utterly lonely. I crashed into my desk chair, trying to power through my work, but my brain absolutely refused to focus. My mind was an absolute train wreck. 1 second, I'd see her pathetic, freezing figure kneeling in the snow. The next, I'd be thrown back to exactly 1 year ago today, staring at her cold, dead-eyed expression in that cafe, tearing my heart out. And then, the ghosts from even further back started haunting me. Back in our broke college days, she used to wait for me outside my dorm, hugging her textbooks to her chest. In the dead heat of summer, she'd be standing there in this pure white dress, flashing a smile that could put the sun to shame. We used to squeeze into a cheap, rundown shoebox of an apartment, splitting packets of instant ramen. She'd always dig out the few slices of ham in her bowl and plop them right into mine. She would pull exhausting all-nighters with me just to help organize my study materials. She'd be nodding off so hard from exhaustion she looked like a tiny chick pecking at seeds. I remember her smiling at me, saying, "Ethan, when we finally save up enough cash, let's buy a massive house. It absolutely has to have those giant floor-to-ceiling windows." She also used to look me dead in the eye and swear, "Ethan, promise me you will never, ever leave me behind." Scene after scene of those sickeningly sweet, unforgettable memories crashed over me like a tidal wave. They bottlenecked in my chest, squeezing my lungs until I literally couldn't breathe. I forcefully powered down my PC, dragged myself up, and stumbled into the kitchen to pour a tall glass of ice water. The freezing liquid slid down my throat, finally shocking my brain back to reality. I glared out the window. The blizzard outside wasn't letting up anytime soon. I caught myself wondering if she'd made it home safely. The second that thought crossed my mind, I burst out laughing at my own stupidity. "Ethan, why the hell are you doing this to yourself? Since when does a gold digger like her need your pity?" For the past 365 days, she's been living the high life, rocking designer clothes and getting chauffeured around in luxury sports cars. She tossed me aside to upgrade her life. I was the only pathetic loser still trapped in the past, entirely unable to move on. Like a stubborn idiot, I shook my head hard, desperately trying to scrub her crying face out of my brain. But it was completely futile. She was a deep, ugly scar carved right into my flesh. Sure, the bleeding stopped a long time ago, and the sharp pain was gone, but that nasty scar was permanent, a 24/7 reminder that my heart had been ripped to shreds right here. Bright and early the next morning, my phone started ringing off the hook, jolting me awake. My head was pounding like a heavy drum, probably punishment for standing out in that freezing blizzard for so long. I blindly reached over and answered the call. The caller ID flashed my best bro's name, Marcus. "Hello?" I groaned, my voice raspy and bone dry. "Dude, you finally picked up." Marcus screamed through the speaker, blowing out my eardrum. "Did Chloe hunt you down yesterday?" "Yeah." "What the hell is her problem?" "Bro, she was bawling her eyes out, throwing a massive tantrum, and begging me for your address. I lied and told her you moved away months ago and I didn't have a clue where you were. She didn't buy a word of it. She practically harassed me until 3 in the morning. Man, you should have seen her. She looked like she had completely snapped. I saw her, man. I sighed, aggressively rubbing my throbbing temples. She spent the entire night kneeling in the snow outside my apartment. The line went dead silent for 3 whole seconds before Marcus practically shrieked. "No freaking way. She actually kneeled in the snow? Ha! Karma finally caught up with that witch." Marcus always despised Chloe with a burning passion. He always said she was way too toxic and entitled, and that she had me wrapped completely around her little finger like a prized puppy. When that heartless girl dumped me last year, Marcus was throwing a parade. He flat out told me I'd finally escaped a life sentence. "Bro, are you okay? Tell me you didn't go soft and take her back." He interrogated me, his voice tight with panic. "Hell no," I shot back. "Oh, thank God. Look, bro, that snake is dangerous. After how ruthlessly she threw you out like actual garbage last year, This whole desperate, loving ex act is a total scam. This is just some desperate act right now. Who knows what kind of twisted scheme she's running in the background. You absolutely cannot fall for her trap again. I know what I'm doing, I muttered. You say you know, but who knows if you actually get it, or if you're just pretending to. Marcus shot back. Don't just give me a quick yes, only to completely lose your damn mind the second she sheds a few fake tears. I am warning you, Ethan. Like they say, a good horse doesn't turn back to eat old grass, especially when that grass is a toxic, poisonous weed. Listening to his endless lecturing, I felt a growing wave of irritation welling up inside me. All right, man, I've got things to do. I'm hanging up. Wait, don't hang up yet. Come out for a few drinks tonight. Let's meet at the usual spot to help you clear your mind. I'm not going. I have to work overtime tonight. Work overtime for what? No, it's settled. Be there at 7:30 p.m. Sharp. If you don't show up, you're a total coward. Before I could even get another word in, click. He hung up on me. I slowly put down my phone and just stared up at the ceiling. Sunlight streamed into the room through a crack in the curtains, and honestly, the light felt blinding. My mind was still a complete, chaotic mess. Even though Marcus's words were blunt and totally harsh, they weren't entirely wrong. Chloe's sudden change of heart was simply too weird. I mean, she was so cold and decisive when she dumped me. Yet now, she had cast aside all her dignity just to beg me. This wasn't like her proud, arrogant personality at all, unless, just as she said, there really was a dark secret behind it all. But what kind of hardship could possibly make her push me away in such a brutal, hurtful way? And what could possibly make her willing to lower herself now, desperately crawling back to find me? I just couldn't figure it out, so I forced myself to stop dwelling on it. I was completely exhausted, both mentally and physically. It felt like trying to piece together a maddening, impossible puzzle. Having finally managed to throw those pieces away, I really didn't have the courage to pick them back up. I dragged myself out of bed to wash up and trim my beard. Looking in the mirror, my eyes were entirely worn out, and a fresh layer of rough stubble covered my chin. I'm simply not that young anymore, unlike back in my early 20s, when I could pull an all-nighter and still bounce back. I just can't handle being constantly dragged through the mud. Honestly, I only hoped for one peaceful day ahead. Yet, I remained utterly distracted all day long. I zoned out repeatedly during our meetings, to the point where my boss called me out and chewed me out right in front of everyone. I didn't have much of an appetite for lunch either. I took maybe 2 bites before totally giving up. Then, in the afternoon, a text from an unknown number popped up on my screen. Ethan, I lost my composure yesterday. I hope you don't mind. Your stomach has always been weak, so remember to eat your meals on time. The message didn't have a name, but I knew instantly who sent it. I had never changed my phone number, yet she always had a habit of changing her contact info. Back in the day, whenever we got into a heated argument, she would always storm out and slam the door behind her, only to text me later, reminding me to take care of myself and eat well. Back then, I would always forgive her so easily, like a fool, secretly believing she actually cared. But looking back at it now, this was probably just a twisted habit of hers, a habit of faking tenderness, right along with her habit of inflicting pain. I deleted the text without sending a single reply. Not even a minute later, another message came through. Can we still be friends, just like when we first met? Staring dead at the screen, I let out a bitter, self-deprecating laugh. Friends? How in the hell could we possibly be friends? What, am I supposed to watch you walk hand in hand with some other guy, forcing a fake smile to give you my blessing? Yeah, I can't do that. I'm not that forgiving. I blocked the number without a second thought. On the surface, my life seemed to return to normal, but that burning irritation deep inside still lingered. It felt like a grain of sand caught beneath my skin, a faint, nagging discomfort I just couldn't shake. Once night finally fell, I realized I couldn't win against Marcus's nagging, and I ended up getting dragged to a noisy bar. The loud bass blasted through the air. Flashing neon lights blinded my tired eyes, and the room was absolutely packed with people laughing and partying. Marcus wrapped his arm around a girl and threw a wink my way. Look, man, I specifically set you up with this single cutie right here. She's gorgeous, and honestly, the girl sitting next to me was indeed a knockout, her large, expressive eyes looking over at me with clear interest. But I couldn't muster even an ounce of interest. I just kept my head down, staring at my drink. Taking a slow sip of the iced whiskey, it slid down my throat, that familiar burning sensation spreading all the way down into my gut. At least my chaotic thoughts finally started to settle a bit. Marcus leaned in close, dropping his voice over the loud music. Are you really planning to let Chloe go for good? Yeah? Well, good for you, man. I'm glad you finally grew a backbone. He gave my shoulder a heavy pat. I was honestly terrified you'd go soft and cave after seeing the state she was in yesterday. Honestly, even I felt a bit bad looking at her like that. I shot him a sharp, sidelong glare. Why bring her up all of a sudden? Hey, I'm just speaking the truth here, Marcus muttered, his expression suddenly looking a little bit unnatural. I mean, even though I've literally always hated her guts. She was crying her eyes out over the phone yesterday, practically begging to know if you had found someone new. I gently swirled the ice cubes in my glass, keeping my mouth shut. I just told her I didn't know a damn thing about your situation, and that it wasn't my place to poke my nose into your business, but she begged me. She swore that as long as you're willing to forgive her, she'd do absolutely anything. Marcus smacked his lips, a heavy sigh slipping out. Man, she really looked pitiful. Pitiful people always bring it on themselves, I replied flatly. That's the damn truth. Marcus suddenly flared up, his voice rising. Just think about how she treated you back then. Whenever that comes up, I just can't hold back my anger. You were living like a ghost, barely even human. Now she finally knows what regret feels like. But it's far too late. Yeah, I muttered. It's way too late. I threw my head back and drained my glass in one gulp. The ice-cold liquor coursed down my throat, slightly numbing the restless, burning heat in my chest. The girl sitting next to me leaned in to refill my drink, the heavy, sweet scent of her perfume hitting my nose. Ethan, you should drink a little less. Pushing it like this is bad for your health. Her voice was soft and overly sweet. I instinctively shifted away, widening the gap between us. Thanks, Sash, but I can manage on my own. She looked completely embarrassed, awkwardly turning her head toward Marcus. Seeing the tension, Marcus quickly jumped in to smooth things over. Hey, my bro here has just been in a rotten mood lately. Don't take it personally. Come have a few drinks with me instead. Just like that, the lively party atmosphere returned. I just sat alone in the corner, watching everyone laugh and have the time of their lives, feeling like a total outsider. Thinking back to a year ago, I used to be the absolute life of the party in places like this. But now, I couldn't care less about anything happening around me. It was as if all my passion had been completely drained. Suddenly, my phone buzzed again. It was another message from an unknown number. I'm right downstairs from your apartment. The lights are on inside. Have you not come back yet? She really just won't leave me the hell alone. Furrowing my brows, I instantly deleted the text and blocked the number without a second thought. But a moment later, another message popped up from a completely different number. I bought some stomach medicine and left it right at your door. You're out socializing, and I know you probably drank way too much. I still didn't reply. The irritation boiling in my chest gradually twisted into an unnameable rage. What on earth is the point of stalking me like this? Why didn't Chloe know how to cherish what we had when we were actually together? By the time the party finally broke up, it was well past 1 in the morning. Marcus was dead drunk, clutching onto my arm like his life depended on it. Bro, you've got to pull yourself together. There are plenty of fish in the sea, man. Don't keep obsessing over the past, and whatever you do, absolutely do not go back to her. I struggled to shove him into a taxi, quickly rattling off his home address to the driver. The driver turned and asked, "How are you getting back, man?" "I'll just walk a bit," I replied. "I need some fresh air to sober up." The late-night winter wind was absolutely bone-chilling. As I inhaled the freezing air into my lungs, it cleared out most of the heavy fog in my head. The streets were completely dead, with only the streetlights standing solitarily along the quiet roadside. Shoving my hands deep into my pockets, I walked slowly toward my apartment building. My mind was completely blank, totally numb to the world. I didn't want to think about a single thing, but as I neared the entrance of my building, a shadowy figure came into view in the distance. My heart instantly sank. Please, God, tell me it's not her again. But as I drew closer, sure enough, it was Chloe. She was wrapped up in a long white down coat, a thick, heavy scarf bundled tight around her neck. It left only her teary eyes exposed under the dim glow of the streetlight. Standing there, her frail figure looked incredibly thin and weak. A few lonely shopping bags were sitting by her feet. The second she saw me walking up, she instinctively took 2 eager steps forward before timidly freezing in her tracks. "Ethan, you're back." The alcohol was still buzzing softly in my brain. I stared at her face, my vision just a little bit blurred. Why are you here again? My tone was sharp, thick with bitter impatience. Quietly, she lifted the bags by her feet and held them out to me. I bought some food and some stomach medicine. I knew you were out drinking tonight, and this medicine is really good for sobering up and protecting your stomach. I didn't even reach out to take them. No need. Her trembling hand froze in midair, her expression filled with a painful, awkward unease. Please, just take it. Just consider it a small gesture from a normal friend. A true friend doesn't wait outside someone's door in the dead of night, I snapped, cutting her off completely. She lowered her head, falling completely silent. Her long eyelashes cast a soft, trembling shadow over her pale cheeks. She looked so incredibly wronged. If this had been the past, my heart would have ached terribly for her. But now, I felt absolutely nothing but utter, exhausting annoyance. Chloe, we broke up for good a year ago. I tried my absolute best to keep my tone cold and even. Pestering me like this, over and over again, it's only going to cause me more trouble. She snapped her head up, her eyes instantly welling with heavy tears. I just want to make amends for my mistakes. I just want to take good care of you. There's no need to talk about making amends, I interrupted coldly. Like I said, I don't need you at all. Go live your own life. Never bothering me again is the absolute best thing you could ever do for me. Maybe those words cut a little too deep. Her tears spilled over instantly, streaming down her face. I'm so sorry. I know I messed up. I really do. It was the exact same broken record all over again. I let out a heavy, helpless sigh, feeling completely and utterly drained. You didn't do anything wrong. Walking away back then was your right, and refusing to take you back right now, well, that is my choice. We don't owe each other a damn thing anymore. But I can't just wipe the slate clean, she suddenly cried out, her voice cracking with raw emotion. I'm going to owe you for the rest of my life. Then that sounds like a you problem, I replied coldly. I stepped right past her, digging into my pocket for my keycard. Is this all because of Paige? She suddenly blurted out from behind me. My hand froze in midair for just a fraction of a second. Paige was the new intern at our firm. It was painfully obvious she had a massive crush on me, and literally everyone knew it, Marcus included. This has absolutely zero to do with her, I muttered, swiping my card to unlock the heavy glass door. Then you must have fallen in love with someone else. She just wouldn't let it go. I turned back around to face her. Standing there in the biting, freezing wind, her frail, shivering silhouette looked exactly like a withered, broken leaf. Her eyes were completely shattered, brimming with absolute desperation. Chloe, I finally said her name. Yes? Whether or not there is someone else in my life doesn't even matter anymore, I told her with dead serious honesty. The only thing that matters is that I just don't love you anymore. You need to figure out how to accept that. And with that final blow, I walked straight into the lobby. The heavy door clicked shut right behind me, instantly cutting off the freezing winter breeze and her entirely. The elevator glided upward at a painfully slow pace, the glowing floor numbers ticking up, one by agonizing one. Yet, my heart felt surprisingly calm. A faint, refreshing wave of relief actually washed right over me. It felt infinitely better to just rip off the Band-Aid and lay everything completely bare. Sooner or later, she was going to have to accept this reality. It was really just a matter of time. Over the next few days, she didn't pop up out of nowhere, nor did my phone buzz with any desperate texts. My life had finally flatlined back to a gloriously peaceful, quiet baseline. I completely buried myself in the grind, pulling insane overtime just to shove our new project across the finish line. The weekdays zipped by in a chaotic, high-speed blur. Then, right on the weekend, my mom's name flashed on my screen. She spent a solid eternity nagging and lecturing me about every little thing, before she finally circled back to the actual reason she even called. Ethan, listen, your Aunt Jang set you up with a very lovely girl. She is a teacher. She has a super stable career. Make some time this week and go meet her. Oh boy, here we go again. Literally from the exact second I dumped Chloe, my mother had made it her personal full-time mission to ambush me with endless blind dates. It was like she genuinely believed I couldn't survive by myself. Mom, seriously, work has been way too crazy lately. I literally do not have a single second to spare. Work, work, work. That is all you ever think about. Is that stupid job going to cuddle you to sleep for the rest of your life? Her voice dripped with pure, unfiltered maternal annoyance. You are already 30 years old. For heaven's sake. And you do not care one bit. What? Are you planning to just rot away as a bachelor forever? Honestly, being single is actually pretty amazing. At least my life is finally quiet and drama-free. Amazing? How on earth is that amazing? Listen to me right now, mister. You are going on this date next Saturday. I already gave them my word. If you dare skip it, I swear I will absolutely end it all just to make you feel guilty. Ah, yes. The classic, ultra-dramatic guilt trip script. She used it every single time. I vigorously rubbed my throbbing temples, feeling completely and utterly defeated. All right, fine, okay, I will go. Are you happy now? That is much better. Boom. Within milliseconds, she texted over the poor girl's contact card. Add her right now and say hello. The second I hung up the call, a shiny new contact bubble popped right up on my screen. Her profile picture was just some generic, cute little anime illustration, making it completely impossible to figure out what she actually looked like in real life. I blindly tapped to send a friend request, without bothering to type out any clever intro. The other side accepted it almost instantly. Hi there. I am Claire. She actually took the initiative to text first. Hey, I am Ethan. Aunt Jang is the one pulling the strings here, right? Yes. She told me you are a really wonderful guy. Followed by a little blushing smiley face emoji. The back and forth texts were basically just your standard, highly polite, super awkward blind date icebreakers. Since I was not in the mood for dragging out the digital small talk, I just fired back a couple of quick, polite replies. If you happen to be free this weekend, we should just meet up in person. She was surprisingly direct and cool about it. She must have thought it over for a brief second before hitting me back with a very simple, sure thing. The two of us quickly hammered out the exact time and place for our little rendezvous. Tossing my phone onto the couch, a weird, hollow sense of being totally lost kind of washed over me. Was I seriously about to go on a random blind date? Was I actually taking real steps to dive headfirst into a brand new relationship? But, pausing to really chew on it, there didn't seem to be a single damn thing wrong with moving forward. A guy can't just stay hopelessly chained to the ghosts of his past forever. Honestly, Chloe was definitely right about one major thing. 10 years was just a ridiculously long time. It was more than long enough for me to become totally hardwired to having her constant presence in my world. Now that such a massive, gaping chunk of my daily routine was suddenly just ripped away, feeling totally derailed and out of sorts was basically inevitable. Maybe finding a new partner in crime would actually help me break free from this heavy, suffocating storm cloud a hell of a lot faster. I managed to loosely comfort myself with that tiny sliver of logic. When Saturday finally rolled around, I actually put in a genuine effort to clean up my act. I completely shaved off my scruffy stubble and threw on a sharp, perfectly crisp outfit. Staring my reflection down in the bathroom mirror, I finally looked like a guy with some actual life in him again. Our designated battleground was a cozy little cafe right down the block from my office. By the time I pushed through the doors, Claire was already seated at a table. She honestly looked almost exactly like I had pictured in my head. Her entire vibe was incredibly gentle, softly quiet, and totally refined. She was wearing a cute, thin-framed pair of glasses. Hey there, I am Ethan. Hi, I am Claire. She smiled back warmly, revealing two sweet, shallow little dimples in her cheeks. We quickly settled into our seats, ordered some food, and dove straight into the polite, careful dance of first date small talk. The whole vibe was incredibly smooth and natural. She wasn't overly talkative, but she never let the conversation drag either. We chatted endlessly about our jobs, our favorite hobbies, and the latest blockbuster movies we had seen. It was just a perfectly normal blind date. Midway through our chat, she politely excused herself to use the restroom. I casually glanced out the window, and my blood ran ice cold. A painfully familiar figure was standing right across the street. It was Chloe. She was wearing a beige coat and a bright red scarf, making her stand out like a sore thumb in the busy crowd. Right now, she was deadlocked in my direction. The distance was a bit too far to make out her exact expression, but her piercing gaze felt incredibly heavy, burning straight into me. What the hell was she doing here? Was this just some crazy coincidence, or was she actually stalking me? My stomach tied itself in knots. A terrible sense of dread welled up deep inside me. What are you looking at? Claire asked as she returned to her seat, following my gaze out the window. Oh, it's nothing. I snapped my attention back and took a nervous sip of my coffee. The drink had already gone ice cold, and it tasted like pure, bitter regret. Do you know that girl? Claire hesitated for a second before pressing further. She seems to have been glaring over here this entire time. No, I answered flatly, shutting it down. Claire didn't push the issue, but the mood at the table had noticeably plummeted. For the rest of our conversation, my mind was completely elsewhere, totally unable to stop myself from nervously checking the window. Chloe was still standing in that exact same spot, absolutely motionless like a creepy statue. What on earth did this woman want? Was she gearing up to make a massive scene, or was she just flat out stalking me? The intense feeling of being watched like prey made my skin crawl. You look like you have something heavy on your mind, Claire pointed out softly. Listen, I am so sorry. I scrambled for an excuse. A massive emergency just came up at work. I'm really afraid I have to cut this short. Claire was clearly taken aback for a second, but then she flashed a polite, understanding smile. That is totally fine. Work always comes first. After hurriedly settling the check, I walked out of the cafe right by her side. As we crossed the street, I completely avoided looking in Chloe's direction, but her dark gaze clung to me like a shadow. It literally felt like 1,000 tiny needles were prickling the back of my neck. Once I walked Claire safely to the subway entrance, we exchanged polite goodbyes and casually promised to text each other. But both of us knew damn well that after a disaster like today, we were never going to see each other again. Turning back around, I took a massive, shaking breath and marched straight toward Chloe. She didn't even try to hide. She just stood there in dead silence, watching me close the distance step by agonizing step. Her face was deathly pale, with bruised, heavy, dark circles dragging down her eyes. She looked like an absolute wreck. What exactly are you trying to pull here? I stopped dead in my tracks right in front of her and demanded answers. She slowly looked up at me, her expression a completely twisted mess. It was a toxic mix of hurt, furious anger, and some dark emotion I couldn't even put into words. You are on a blind date, she whispered, her voice shaking uncontrollably. Does my life have absolutely anything to do with you? I fired back. Ethan! She suddenly screamed, her voice cracking. We have only been broken up for 1 year. Are you really in that much of a desperate rush to replace me? Her pathetic words dragged a harsh, bitter laugh straight out of my chest. Chloe, what gives you the right to question my life? Are you asking as my ex, or as the woman who threw me away like garbage exactly 1 year ago? The brutal question left her entirely speechless. Her face flushed bright red before draining to paper white. You just what? I closed the gap, stepping aggressively into her space. Are you the only one allowed to walk away without a second thought, while I am forbidden from ever moving on? Did you honestly convince yourself that I was just going to sit around like a dog, waiting for you for the rest of my damn life? I didn't mean it like that, she frantically cried out. But you two just met. You don't know a single thing about that woman. What if she? What if she? What if she what? I ruthlessly cut her off. What if she is exactly like you, and just tosses me in the dirt the second she gets bored? Those brutal words hit her like a physical dagger, completely shattering whatever pathetic defense she was desperately trying to hold up. Her eyes instantly flooded with heavy tears, her bottom lip trembling so violently she couldn't even form a single word. Chloe, just drop it. I glared down at her, making sure every single word cut deep. We are completely over. Who I choose to date is my own damn business. You have absolutely zero right to interfere in my life. With that final blow, I ripped my eyes away, turned my back, and walked away. This time, she didn't even try to chase after me. It was only after I had walked a full block away that I finally dared to glance back. She was still standing, glued to the pavement, head hung low, her shoulders shaking violently like a pathetic, abandoned stray animal. A tiny, foolish corner of my heart actually twinged with pity, but in the very next second, a massive wave of pure annoyance completely drowned out the feeling. I absolutely could not let this drama drag on forever. I had to make a ruthless, completely clean break from her. From that day forward, I blocked her number and every single social media app she could possibly use to reach me. I seriously even considered packing up and moving out of my place. But I had dumped way too much time and money into renovating my apartment. Uprooting my entire life over an obsessed ex was just too much of a hassle. After weighing the pros and cons to death, I completely scrapped the idea. I mean, surely, she wouldn't do anything actually crazy, right? After all, even when the old Chloe threw her dramatic fits, she always cared way too much about her precious image. So, I pushed it aside, and my work life remained as completely chaotic as ever. The new office intern, Paige, was making her massive crush on me more obvious by the day. She took it upon herself to bring me breakfast and brew my coffee every single morning, and whenever I pulled a late shift, she'd stay behind just to keep me company. Naturally, the gossip spread like wildfire through the department. When Marcus caught wind of it, he slid over to my desk to tease me. "Not bad, bro. An office romance already? That girl is actually pretty great. She's cheerful, and honestly, way more mature than Chloe ever was." I didn't even entertain the comment. I had never looked at Paige that way. She was only 23, in the absolute prime of her youth. Her eyes were still full of this pure, innocent light that hadn't been crushed by the real world yet. Meanwhile, my heart was a total, absolute wasteland. There was zero chance I could ever give her the kind of love she was looking for. I had already clearly rejected her twice, but she seemed totally unfazed, just carrying on exactly like before. Maybe to someone as young and optimistic as her, she actually believed that if she just kept trying, she would eventually win me over. But what she didn't get was that my heart had long since frozen solid. Even if the ice somehow thawed, all that would be left is a pool of dead, freezing water. As closing time rolled around, Paige skipped over to my desk. "Ethan, let's grab dinner tonight. I found this new Japanese spot, and the food is supposed to be amazing." "I have plans tonight," I replied, keeping my eyes glued to the paperwork I was sorting. A flash of pure disappointment crossed her face, but she quickly forced a bright smile. "Well, what about tomorrow then?" I looked up at her bright, hopeful face, and just as I opened my mouth to shoot her down again, my eyes caught a terrifying glimpse of something through the glass office door. A painfully familiar figure flashed right past. My chest tightened instantly. No way. It can't be her again. I bolted to my feet and rushed straight out the door. The hallway was completely dead, empty, with only the glowing elevator numbers at the end ticking down continuously. "Ethan, what's wrong?" Paige jogged out right behind me, her face completely masked in confusion. "It's nothing," I lied casually, desperately forcing down the sickening unease in my chest. "I've probably just been way too exhausted lately and started seeing things." But that deeply creepy feeling of being secretly watched from the shadows, it lingered from that exact moment on, and it was impossible to shake. In the blink of an eye, the weekend arrived, and my old high school classmates threw together a reunion. I really didn't want to go at first, but I couldn't dodge the class president's relentless nagging, especially when they dropped the guilt trip that our old homeroom teacher would be there too. It was just too damn hard to decline. But man, only after arriving at the venue did I realize that showing up to this reunion was a massive mistake. The private room was completely choked with thick cigarette smoke and deafening, noisy chatter. After not seeing each other for so many years, everyone's looks had changed pretty drastically. People traded fake pleasantries and toasted one another, bragging about their current lives and digging up the past honestly, no different from any other cliché school reunion. Right in the middle of the meal, someone suddenly brought up Chloe. "Ethan, man, back then you and Chloe were our class's absolute golden couple. How did you two even end up breaking up?" As soon as those words left his mouth, the entire room went dead silent. All these so-called casual glances darted toward me from every direction. I slowly picked up my glass and took a painfully slow sip. We just weren't compatible, so we split. "Man, that is such a shame." The guy sighed dramatically. "I heard Chloe is doing really well for herself these days. Working at some major corporation, right?" "I don't really know the details," I said flatly, setting my glass down hard. "We haven't been in touch for a very long time." Everyone quickly scrambled to change the subject, but that suffocatingly awkward atmosphere lingered on. Midway through the torture, I got up to hit the restroom. Stepping out of the stuffy private room, I immediately bumped into my old classmate and academic rep, Lucas. He used to be pretty tight with Chloe back in the day. "Ethan, wait up," he called out, stopping me in my tracks. He had this heavy look of hesitation plastered on his face. "What's up?" Chloe came to see me a few days ago." My battered heart immediately skipped a painful beat. "She asked how you've been doing lately, and if you ever talk about her. And what exactly did you tell her?" "I just told her I wasn't really sure how you were doing." Lucas looked me dead in the eye, his tone heavy with a sigh. "Ethan, she is in a really bad state right now. She's lost a ton of weight. She even specifically asked if you already found yourself a new girlfriend." I just gave a cold, quiet grunt of acknowledgement, completely refusing to indulge the conversation. Lucas lowered his voice, stepping closer. "Look, we're all old classmates here. so I'm just gonna speak from the heart. Chloe genuinely knows she was wrong. Maybe there actually was some hidden secret behind what went down back then. Are you truly unwilling to just give her one more chance? A secret. Another pathetic hidden secret. Everyone around me was suddenly stepping up to play the hero and mediate for her, as if my refusal to forgive her somehow flipped the script, turning me into the petty, narrow-minded villain. Lucas. I looked him dead in the eyes and said with absolute finality, "This is a strictly private matter between her and me." He froze instantly, a hot trace of embarrassment spreading across his face. "Sorry, man," I spoke completely out of turn. After heading back into that private room, I only felt more and more suffocated by the minute. So, I just made up a cheap excuse and got the hell out of there early. The cold night breeze slapped my face, finally clearing the heavy buzz from my head. Right then, my phone started buzzing. An unknown local landline flashed on the screen. I hesitated for a split second before answering. "Hello?" Dead silence hung on the line for a few seconds. Then came that trembling, tear-choked voice. "Ethan, it's me." It was her. Again. This endless, obsessive hounding was driving me absolutely insane. Swallowing the fiery rage burning in my chest, I snapped. "Where the hell did you even get this number?" I asked Lucas for it. The second I heard that, whatever tiny shred of sympathy I had left evaporated in an instant. "Chloe, what exactly do you want from me?" I growled, barely holding back a full-blown shout. "What is the point of stalking me like this?" I didn't mean to hound you," she sobbed uncontrollably. I just wanted to hear your voice, Ethan. My heart hurts so much. I really feel like I'm going to collapse." "You feel like collapsing?" I let out a bitter, mocking laugh. "Then what about me? Back when I was drowning in absolute agony, who the hell gave a damn about me? What you're doing right now, how is it any different from the garbage you pulled back then? Honestly, you're crossing the line even worse this time. This is straight-up harassment. I'm sorry. I know I was wrong." She kept crying and apologizing, her breathing totally ragged. I just hung up right in her face and powered off my phone for good measure. My chest felt so incredibly tight I could barely breathe. I looked up at the night sky, the city skyline glowing a dull, suffocating dark red. There wasn't a single star in sight. It perfectly matched my mood, murky, bleak, and downright suffocating. I decided to end this nightmare once and for all. I took the initiative and asked her to meet up, ready to sever this toxic tie face to face. We met at the park where we had our very first official date. It was late autumn now. The dead leaves were long gone, and a thin, frosty layer of ice coated the lake. The park was practically deserted. She showed up exactly on time. Her frail figure looked even thinner and more fragile than the last time I saw her. Her oversized winter coat hung loosely off her shoulders, making her look entirely hollow and ghost-like. Her face was completely drained of color, but her eyes gleamed with a feverish, unnatural brightness. Spotting me, she hurried over, a pathetic glimmer of hope in her eyes. "Ethan, you were actually willing to see me. Have a seat," I replied coldly, gesturing to the frosty bench beside me. We sat down side by side, leaving a massive, glaring gap between us. We looked exactly like two complete strangers. I brought you that hot cocoa you always loved," she offered, weakly holding out a steaming paper cup. "No thanks. I'm leaving the second I finish what I have to say." Her outstretched hand froze awkwardly in midair before she slowly pulled it back. The desperate light in her eyes faded away bit by bit. "Okay, go ahead." I took a deep breath, staring blankly at the dead, barren branches ahead. "Today is the last time we will ever see each other." Her whole body jolted violently. "Do not look for me anymore. Don't call me, don't text me, and stop creeping around my company and my apartment. We are completely, permanently over. There is absolutely zero chance for us anymore. Do you understand?" She just kept her head down, completely silent. She was wringing her hands together so tightly that her knuckles turned a sickly white. "You deserve to meet someone better. Stop wasting your time and energy on me. It's completely meaningless. Just let me go, and let yourself go." I delivered the most brutal, unyielding words in my heart, hoping with everything I had that it would finally crush her false hopes. The world around us plunged into a long, dead silence, leaving only the sound of the freezing wind howling past. I honestly expected her to burst into tears, but when she slowly looked up, her face was perfectly calm. There wasn't a single trace of tears. Her expression was chillingly flat. The only thing standing out were her eyes, dark, empty, and deep as a stagnant, bottomless pool. "Are you finished speaking?" she asked, her tone completely dead and unusually calm. This reaction completely caught me off guard. "Yes, I am. I understand," she murmured, standing up. She casually adjusted her oversized coat. "Ethan, this is your choice, right?" I gave her a stiff nod. Without looking back at me even a single time, she turned and walked straight away. Her steps were terrifyingly steady and composed, without a single shred of hesitation. It was a far cry from the weeping, desperate mess she was just moments before. But instead of feeling that sweet sense of relief from a clean break, a powerful, creeping wave of unease surged in my chest. A composure like that was way too abnormal. It felt exactly like the dead, terrifying silence right before a massive storm hits. In the days that followed, my life unexpectedly returned to absolute peace. She really had vanished completely. No frantic phone calls, no crazy text messages, and zero orchestrated coincidences. Life finally seemed to get back on its usual track. I tried my best to bury the past, and I started spending time with Paige, the new intern at work. We watched movies, grabbed dinner together, and acted just like any normal happy couple. Paige was incredibly bright, always walking around with a huge smile plastered across her face. It was glaringly obvious she was totally, utterly delighted to be with me. I really poured my heart and soul into this new relationship, trying to make it work, but there was always this invisible wall deep down. That massive void in my chest just wouldn't close up. Marcus even joked about it, calling me a total scumbag for using a sweet young girl as a band-aid for my broken heart. Honestly, maybe he was right, but I desperately needed a fresh start to wipe the slate clean. Anyway, today was Paige's birthday. I made sure to book a table at this super fancy, high-end restaurant way ahead of time. Walking in, the lighting was dim and romantic, and the soft background music gave the whole place this incredibly warm, intimate vibe. Paige was wearing this absolutely stunning dress. Her smile, it was radiant, blooming as bright as a beautiful flower. We shared a couple of drinks, and her cheeks turned this cute, rosy pink as she looked at me with so much pure love in her eyes. "Ethan, I am just so unbelievably happy today." "As long as you're happy, I'm happy," I replied, flashing a gentle smile. But then, my head suddenly felt like a ton of bricks. Man, this booze really packed one hell of a punch. I rubbed my pounding temples, but my vision was already starting to blur out. "Ethan, what's wrong? Are you feeling sick?" Paige asked, her face completely masked with worry. "Just a bit dizzy. I think I knocked back way too much." "Then let's just call it a night. I'll drive you home." I nodded weakly. I braced my hands on the table to stand up, but my entire body felt completely like jelly. My muscles just wouldn't work. My consciousness started slipping away, fading out like the outgoing tide, before pulling me straight down into total darkness. The very last thing I saw was Paige's frantic, terrified face, along with this eerily familiar figure, slowly stepping out from a dark corner of the restaurant. I honestly thought I was just hallucinating. When I finally came to, a sharp, splitting pain throbbed inside my skull. The glaring sunlight pouring in made it practically impossible to even pry my eyes open. I realized I was lying in a totally foreign room. The decor was elegant and super expensive looking, but let me tell you, this was definitely not my apartment. I bolted straight up in a total panic. Someone had changed my clothes into this weird, unfamiliar set of pajamas. Scanning the room, my eyes locked onto a framed photo sitting right on the nightstand. In the picture, I was in my graduation cap and gown, with Chloe leaning warmly against my chest, her smile beaming brightly. The background behind us was our old college campus gates. My chest suddenly tightened up, a heavy knot dropping in my stomach. What the hell is this place? Why on earth am I here? My memory was completely shot, like a massive chunk was just missing. All I could remember was having dinner and tossing back a few drinks with Paige, and then just blacking out completely. Suddenly, the bedroom door slowly creaked open, and Chloe casually strolled in, holding a glass of water. She was wearing cozy, everyday loungewear, acting so relaxed and natural, like this was just our normal morning routine. "Oh, you're awake. Does your head still pound? Here, drink some honey water. It'll help settle your stomach and ease the pain." She held the glass out to me with a sweet smile. I didn't even twitch to take it. Instead, I glared right through her and demanded, "Where the hell are we? Why am I here?" "Well, this is our home, silly," she replied, tilting her head with this creepy, soft little laugh. The sweet, loving look in her eyes had this deeply disturbing, crazy edge to it. You drank way too much last night, honey. I was so worried about my poor baby, so I brought you right back home. Where is Paige? Who's Paige? She blinked at me, her face looking completely innocent and hopelessly confused. Babe, we were the only two eating dinner together last night. You even told me you wanted to celebrate our special day with me. Celebrate. What? A freezing chill shot straight up my spine. Celebrate getting our marriage license, of course. You silly goose. She slowly raised her left hand. A massive, glittering diamond ring was sitting perfectly on her ring finger. I instinctively jerked my own hand up to look. A heavy, ice-cold wedding band was locked tightly around my own finger. Here, just look. She happily shoved a thick paper document right in front of my face. It was a literal marriage certificate, and right there at the bottom, both her name and my name were clearly signed, stamped officially with a bright red government seal. We just finalized all the paperwork and registered yesterday afternoon. The exact second my eyes processed that document, my brain started violently buzzing, going completely blank like TV static. I snatched the paper out of her hands, my fingertips shaking uncontrollably. The couple's photo, the government stamps, the signatures, everything was 100% horrifyingly real. And the date printed right at the top was unmistakably yesterday. No, this is impossible. This is absolutely freaking impossible. I ripped the heavy blankets off my legs and stumbled wildly toward the bedroom door. I violently yanked the door handle, only to realize the damn thing had already been deadbolted from the outside. Let me out, Chloe. Open this door. You have completely lost your damn mind. She slowly stepped up right behind me, that sick, faint smile still plastered on her face, whispering in this light, airy voice. Ethan, darling, we are legally recognized as husband and wife now. Don't you ever think about leaving me again. I slowly turned around to look at her face. Her expression held this eerie, calm composure that bordered on absolute, total madness. A bone-chilling terror shot straight from the soles of my feet up to the crown of my head. This woman, she had truly, completely changed into a monster. I was officially trapped, placed under strict house arrest in this very room. My cell phone, my laptop, and every single way to reach the outside world were entirely confiscated. This beautiful luxury apartment had literally become my very own gilded cage. She cooked my meals right on schedule, managed every single detail of my daily life, and kept me company. She'd chat, giggle, and play the role of the perfect, doting little wife flawlessly. But the absolute second I tried to fight back, whether it was smashing plates against the wall or going on a desperate hunger strike to protest, she wouldn't even yell. She'd never get angry. She would just sit there, staring at me in dead silence with this horribly sad, obsessively fixated gaze. And right after that, she'd calmly pull out a syringe and plunge a heavy dose of sedative straight into my arm. By the time my eyes forced themselves open again, everything would be back to her sick, twisted version of normal. Somehow, she always knew exactly how to break me down and force me to surrender. I tried every single escape plan I could think of, and I screamed for help until my throat bled, but it was all completely useless. The windows were dead-bolted shut, and the door was a heavy-duty, high-security vault. She had actually quit her job just to watch over me 24/7, refusing to let me out of her sight for even a second. Occasionally, people would show up at the door, mostly delivery guys dropping off our groceries and supplies, but they turned a totally blind eye to the nightmare happening right in front of them. I honestly suspected she had handpicked and bribed every single one of them. She would just stare at me, her eyes dripping with this intensely suffocating, twisted obsession. Look, Ethan, we can finally be together forever. No one is ever going to tear us apart again. From now until the end of time, you belong strictly to me. I just stared back at her, feeling absolutely nothing inside but pure, paralyzing terror. I had deeply loved this woman for 10 years and hated her for another, but now, I didn't even recognize her. She had morphed into a complete and total stranger. Using a fake marriage and this gilded cage, she was dragging me down into a pitch-black nightmare. Then, one day, she was in an exceptionally good mood. She cooked this massive, incredible feast and even popped open a bottle of red wine. "What's the occasion today?" I asked, my voice coming out all raspy and dry. "It's our anniversary," she beamed, pouring me a glass of wine. "It's the day we held hands for the very first time." I looked at her. In that warm lighting, Her profile still looked incredibly beautiful, but the sight of it just made my blood run ice cold. "Chloe," I pleaded, trying to reason with her just one last time. "You have to stop this now. Let me walk out that door right now, and I swear to you I'll pretend none of this ever happened." The sweet smile on her face slowly melted away. She set the wine bottle down and glared at me. "Leave? Where exactly do you think you're going?" "I'm going back to the life that actually belongs to me." I shot back. "Your life right now is being here with me," she snapped, her tone turning totally vicious. "Ethan, we signed the papers and got married. You are my husband. That does not count as a real marriage at all. You rigged the whole thing and forced it. It doesn't mean a damn thing. It is completely valid." She shot up from her chair, totally losing control of her mind. "Our names are on those papers, and the official seal is stamped. The law recognizes it. You literally drugged me and locked me in a cage. That is a felony. So what?" She backed me into a corner, step by step, pure psychotic madness gleaming in her eyes. "As long as I can keep you right here by my side, I will do absolutely anything." "You have completely lost your damn mind," I muttered coldly. "Yes, I am crazy." She grabbed my shoulders, digging her fingernails straight into my skin. "The exact second you tried to leave me, I went completely insane. Ethan, you did this to me. You pushed me over the edge." I stared into those bloodshot eyes, swimming with this sick, twisted cocktail of extreme love and raw obsession. I knew perfectly well that fighting with her was totally pointless. The woman was completely off her rocker, and I was backed into a corner with absolutely zero way out. Later that night, I faked being dead asleep. Once her breathing leveled out next to me, I slipped out of bed and crept into the living room. I desperately needed to find my phone, a laptop, literally anything to call for help. Pale moonlight washed over this fancy little prison. I crouched down by the TV stand and started tearing through it, trying to be dead silent. Click. The lights flashed on. My heart stopped dead in my chest as my whole body went rigid. I slowly turned around. She was standing in the bedroom doorway in a white nightgown, looking like some creepy phantom in the dark. And in her hand, a loaded syringe. "Ethan," she whispered, flashing this eerie little smile as she walked toward me step by step. "It's way past your bedtime. Why aren't you asleep? What exactly are you looking for out here?" I kept backing away until I hit the cold, hard wall. "Be a good boy and go back to bed." She sounded so sweet, like she was coaxing a little toddler. "Just one little shot, and all that pain will go away. Didn't we promise to stay together forever?" She kept creeping closer. The crazy in her eyes was way sharper and colder than the needle in her hand. "It is a scary world out there. The only way you'll ever be safe and sound is right here, by my side." I tensed up, getting ready to make a mad dash for the front door, but the needle never actually came down. She suddenly slammed against the wall, dry heaving like crazy. The color completely drained from her face, and a thick layer of cold sweat broke out across her forehead. The syringe slipped from her fingers, tumbling harmlessly onto the carpet. She slid down the wall, curling into a tight little ball on the floor, gasping for air like she was dying. I just stood there, totally frozen, waiting for the trap to spring. I swear I thought she was just trying to pull another fast one on me, but seeing her so pitiful and weak, she definitely wasn't faking this. Her whole body was shaking out of control. She looked so tiny and fragile. Right then, all that fear and total hatred crashed head-on with 10 solid years of muscle memory. It seriously tore me apart inside. In the end, I just wasn't enough of a heartless bastard to leave her there to suffer. I let out a heavy sigh, walked over slowly, and dropped to my knees. After hesitating for a second, I still reached out and gently patted her back. "Where does it hurt?" She looked up, her eyes totally blurred with tears. The panic and sheer helplessness in them, completely genuine, not a single shred of deceit. "I don't know," she whispered. Suddenly, I just feel incredibly sick. I helped her to the couch and handed her a glass of warm water. She took tiny sips, her pale face getting a little color back, though her fingertips were still ice cold. We sat there in dead silence, just staring at each other. The atmosphere was incredibly heavy and seriously bizarre. After what felt like an eternity, she finally muttered, "My period is really late this month." It didn't register at first, not until she instinctively touched her flat stomach, giving me this deeply complex look. Those words exploded in my ears like a clap of thunder. I snapped my head up, my eyes locked on her stomach. My voice tightened involuntarily. When did you find out? I asked. Probably. The night you got drunk, she murmured, lowering her head. Drugged. That's what I was that night. The total chaos and sick humiliation of losing consciousness instantly rushed back into my mind. I closed my eyes, my head spinning completely out of control. A tiny new life had actually sparked, quietly arriving in such a twisted, dark situation. Are you sure? I asked, my throat bone dry. I took a test, she replied. It showed 2 lines. She spoke so softly, clearly testing the waters. Ethan. She didn't even finish her sentence, but I had already read her mind perfectly. She wanted to use this child to chain me securely to her side. I should have been absolutely furious. I should have known this was just another one of her psychotic, calculated schemes. But looking at her pale face, staring at that flat stomach, a crushing weight wrapped around me, and it had nothing to do with love or hate. It was just a profound sense of responsibility, mixed with the overwhelming confusion of facing a new life. This baby? It is completely innocent. It shouldn't be born into a twisted world of schemes and captivity. We didn't say another word that night. I sat on the other end of the couch, watching her pass out from pure exhaustion, wet tear tracks still staining her face. Whatever tiny bit of resentment I had left just vanished, replaced by this endless, boundless exhaustion. The very next day, I grabbed the phone she actually allowed me to use, fully monitored by her from start to finish, of course, and called Marcus. I told him Chloe and I had gotten back together, and that we were leaving the city to start fresh somewhere else. Marcus went dead silent on the other end of the line. Then, he let out a brutal string of curses before finally sighing heavily. Ethan, you are literally the most idiotic person I've ever met in my life. Whatever, man. As long as you think you're happy, that's enough. I hung up, my heart completely numb. Happiness? Yeah. That concept was long gone. This was just a desperate compromise born from a dead end. The absolute only way out I could find for myself, and for that unborn kid waiting to enter the world. Seeing how totally compliant I'd become, Chloe couldn't even hide the sick joy plastered across her face. I silently warned myself to just endure this for now. Every single bit of this was for the kid, just until the baby was safely born, and this insane situation finally stabilized.